They gave Jacob Fatu nothing. They handed him zero respect, zero opportunity, and zero acknowledgement of the absolute destruction he has unleashed every single time he has stepped inside a WWE ring. And now that this man has walked up to Adam Pearce and looked him dead in the eyes demanding a rematch, the entire WWE machine is scrambling because they know, if Jacob Fatu gets what he deserves, the whole title picture gets flipped upside down and nobody at the top of that card is safe. And I am going to tell you exactly what happened, what was said, and more importantly what is coming next, because by the end of this video you will understand why this moment is bigger than anything WWE has produced in the last 2 years. And I promise you 2 things right now. First, I am going to reveal the real backstage reason WWE has been slow-walking Jacob Fatu's push, and it is going to make your blood boil. Second, I am going to break down the exact title match scenario that makes Jacob Fatu virtually unbeatable, and once you see it, you will never watch his matches the same way again. Now let us get into it, because this situation is already all gas and no brakes from the very second Fatu stepped to Pearce. So Raw goes off the air and Jacob Fatu is standing in that ring looking like an absolute force of nature, like somebody welded a wrecking ball to a human being and taught it to feel rage. He calls out Adam Pearce, and Pearce comes out there doing what authority figures always do, trying to use corporate language and scheduling conflicts and all that nonsense to deflect from the fact that Jacob Fatu has done everything that was asked of him. Every single thing. He came in, he dominated, he made former champions look like absolute amateurs, and instead of being rewarded with a clear path to the top, he is being handed a maybe, a let me get back to you, or we will see what we can do, and the crowd absolutely lost it because they see it too. The fans see the game being played here and they are sick of it. Here is what people are not talking about enough. Jacob Fatu is not just physically dominant, he is psychologically terrifying inside that ring. When you watch him work, you are not watching a guy who learned how to look scary. You are watching a man whose entire body operates on a frequency of violence that most wrestlers cannot even comprehend. His movement is predatory. His pace does not slow down. He does not telegraph, he does not hesitate, and he does not give opponents the kind of moments where they can breathe and reset. He is relentless in a way that feels almost unfair, and that is exactly why the rematch demand hit so differently. Because Fatu is not out there begging. He is informing. He walked up to Pearce and essentially said, I am coming for that title, and your job right now is to decide whether you want to make it official or whether you want to watch me make it unofficial. And that energy, that absolute refusal to be ignored, is what separates him from 90% of the roster right now. Now let us talk about what is actually happening backstage, because this is where people need to hear the truth. There is real heat in certain corners of WWE creative because Jacob Fatu's organic rise happened faster than anyone planned for. When you have a star who connects with the audience on their own without a carefully managed slow burn, it creates a political problem. Other people on the card suddenly look less valuable. Other carefully constructed storylines start to feel smaller. And instead of leaning into that momentum the way they should, there is a faction of decision makers who keep hitting the pause button because they are afraid of blowing the load too soon. They want to protect the long-term booking. They want to save the payoff for a bigger stage. But here is the problem with that logic. You cannot keep a lid on something this hot without burning yourself. Every week they delay giving Jacob Fatu the proper main event positioning. They risk the audience turning that genuine excitement into frustration, and frustrated fans do not just wait quietly. They get loud, they get vocal, they let WWE know on social media, in arenas, in comment sections everywhere that the company is dropping the ball, and that pressure is building to a level that even the most stubborn producers in that building cannot ignore. The rematch demand from Fatu is not just a story point. It is a pressure valve. It is Fatu essentially becoming the voice of every single fan who has been sitting at home screaming at their television asking why this man is not already in the main event. And Adam Pearce being the one to receive that demand puts the entire creative direction of Raw on trial. Because if Pearce says no or keeps stalling, the audience boos the authority figure and cheers Fatu louder. If Pearce says yes, Fatu gets his shot and the division finally gets the collision it has been building toward. Either way, Jacob Fatu wins the narrative, and that is a rare position for any talent to be in. Let us talk about the rematch itself, because I promised you the scenario that makes Fatu virtually unbeatable, and here it is. When Jacob Fatu gets back in that ring with the title on the line, the psychological dynamic completely changes for his opponent. The champion going in knows what Fatu does. They have film, they have studied it. But knowing and surviving are two completely different things. Fatu operates at a pace and intensity that wears people down mentally before they are even physically broken. He makes champions second-guess every single decision they make in real time. Do I go for the submission here, or does that give him space to explode out? Do I stay on the ground game, or do I risk standing with him? Do I go for the quick pin attempt and hope it catches him off guard, or do I grind this out and trust my conditioning? Every choice becomes a trap when Jacob Fatu is across the ring from you, and that is his greatest weapon. It is not just the physical dominance, it is the mental maze he creates that forces opponents to fight on his terms no matter what strategy they came in with. And here is the part that makes the rematch even more dangerous for whoever holds that title. Jacob Fatu has had time to study the loss if there was one. He has had time to identify the exact moment where things went wrong and correct it. Champions rarely account for a challenger who comes back smarter. They expect the same aggression. They expect the same patterns. But Fatu is not just a physical specimen. He is an intelligent competitor from a family that has lived and breathed professional wrestling at the highest level for generations. The Fatu family does not just train bodies. They train minds. They train adaptability, and a more focused, more calculated Jacob Fatu going into a rematch is genuinely one of the scariest prospects on the entire WWE roster right now. The moment he stood in that ring and demanded his rematch from Adam Pearce, Jacob Fatu did something incredibly smart. He made himself impossible to ignore. He made himself the story, because now every single episode of Raw has to answer the same question. What is going to happen with Jacob Fatu's rematch? Is it confirmed? Is it being blocked? Who is going to try to get in his way? And whoever gets in his way is going to get destroyed on television in a way that only builds his credibility further. It is a no-lose situation when the booking follows the organic momentum, and right now the momentum is a freight train with no brakes and a driver who has no interest in slowing down. WWE has a generational talent demanding his rightful place at the top of the card. The fans are behind it. The moment is here. The question is whether the people making decisions in that building are brave enough to fully pull the trigger, give Jacob Fatu the platform he has earned, and let this man show the entire world why the Fatu name is the most important name in professional wrestling right now. Because if they do, what comes next is going to be unforgettable. And if they don't, the fans will never let them forget that they had lightning in a bottle and chose to leave it on the shelf. Drop a comment below and tell me, do you think WWE is going to give Jacob Fatu his rematch at the next premium live event, or are they going to keep making us wait? And if you already know somebody who needs to see this, share it right now because this conversation needs to be everywhere.